Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Ipshita Bansal from BPS Women's University Sonipat. Today we are going to discuss about the module Negotiation under the paper Business Communication. By the end of this modules, you will be able to understand firstly how parties resolve their conflict through negotiation, secondly process of negotiation, third, qualities of successful negotiation, and fourth, elements of negotiation preparation under various situations. John F. Kennedy once stated, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." Be it at home or at office, human beings are constantly negotiating in their work, family, or public spaces. It is communication process that helps the parties to resolve their conflict and come to amicable terms. Henry Kissinger defined negotiation as a process of combining conflicting positions into a common position under a decision rule of unanimity, which simply means that conflicting issues between two parties are identified, analyzed, and a common agreeable conditions are found out and worked at to enable a conducive environment where both the parties can work together. It involves communication, sales, marketing, psychology, sociology, and conflict resolution. A negotiator may be a buyer or a seller, a customer or a supplier, or they can be your parents and children too. So, what are the characteristics of negotiation? First is two or more parties. There are two or more parties involved in the process of negotiation. They may be individuals, groups, or even organizations. Second, conflict of needs and desires. The two parties involved have different interests due to which the conflict arises and due to which the need for negotiation begins. Third, hope to crack a better deal. The parties have faith that they would be able to crack a better deal with the use of influence on other party. Fourth, expectation to give and take. Initially, the parties put forward their demands, but over the time they modify their positions and statements by talking to one another as they try to strike amicable balance and reach a decision. Fifth, predetermined goals. The agenda is set by the parties beforehand, and on the basis of that agenda and the predetermined goals, decisions are taken and deal is formalized. Let's now understand the approaches to negotiation. First approach which can be adopted is bargaining orientation or bargaining approach. Here, one party wins at the expense of other. That is, one party's gain matches the other party's loss. It is also named as win-lose approach. Here, the parties are competitive and are determined to take advantage of each other as the interest of the parties do not match. This is suited when compromising is not regarded as the best option. The second approach is lose-lose approach. When one party's interests are threatened by the other party, the losing party ensures that the negotiation deal does not serve the interest of the other party also. Due to this, both parties end up being losers. This situation arises when the parties ignore each other's needs or when their sole motive is to hurt the other rather than coming to acceptable solution. The third approach to negotiation is compromising. To avoid the lose-lose situation, sometimes negotiating partners compromise. They give up a part of what they previously thought and settle for something lesser. It is the best possible way out when it is tough to convince either of the parties, or when, in order to partially achieve one's goal, it is important to satisfy the other party. It is healthier when the disputed resources are limited. For example, negotiation for pay, terms of trade, etc. Fourth approach is win-win orientation. This approach is better than other approaches as it confirms satisfaction of both the parties. It is applicable when the needs of both the parties do not conflict. Since win-win approach is the best approach, everyone should try to adopt this approach as this leads to long-term solution or maintenance of relationships. In order to make the win-win approach work, following steps should be taken. First, determination of needs. Both the parties should try to understand the needs of each other in order to come to an amicable solution. Also, it would make the process easy and smooth. Second, listing possible solutions. All the possible solutions that satisfy each other's needs should be listed and identified. Third, evaluation and implementation of the solution. During this stage, all the listed solutions are evaluated and the most promising one is implemented. Fourth, follow-up. Once implemented, the plan should be monitored. In case any party is not satisfied and their needs are not met, the parties can go back to problem-solving procedure and work on better solution or rectify the one that has been implemented. Let's now understand the characteristics of negotiation style on the basis of orientation, approach, issues, and points of view. In lose-lose style of negotiation, orientation is to hurt each other. In bargaining negotiation style, orientation is us versus them. In compromising negotiation style, orientation is recognizing that it is impossible to control everything. In win-win negotiation style, orientation is we versus the problem. Now, with respect to approach, in lose-lose negotiation style, approach is self-centered. In bargaining negotiation style, there is short-term approach focusing on immediate problems. In compromising negotiation style, there is recognition of the need for civil outcome. In win-win negotiation style, long-term approach focusing on amicable relationship is adopted. Now, with respect to the issues discussed. In lose-lose negotiation style, issues are ignored. Also, needs are ignored of one party. In bargaining negotiation style, only task issues are considered. In compromising negotiation style, there is emphasis on task issues. In win-win negotiation style, task and relationships issues both are considered. Now, with respect to points of view, in lose-lose negotiation style, There is ignorance of each other's view by both the parties. In bargaining negotiation style, there is one-sided view of the problems. In compromising negotiation style, parties partially understand each other's situation. In win-win negotiation style, both the parties are well versed with each other's view. Let's now consider the fundamental framework of negotiation. There are four fundamental stances related to negotiation which need to be understood. First, establishing BATNA, that is, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. The bargaining power of the parties depend upon their BATNA. One increases one's BATNA by brainstorming, identifying and evaluating the alternatives available. For example, in a job, a candidate's bargaining power is dependent on the number of job offers he has in hand. The next best offer he relies on is his BATNA. For example, Ram earns rupees 60,000. His company transfers him to a different location. Ram asks for a hike in the salary. Ram feels that if he rejects the offer, he is reducing his chances for further hike in the organization. Ram explores further options and finds a job that pays him 62,000 rupees without making him leave his present city. By identifying the alternative job, Ram increases his BATNA, that is, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, from 60,000 to rupees 62,000. Second, establishing WATNA, that is, worst alternative to a negotiated agreement. It is also called as the worst case scenario. Here, the party tries to anticipate the most damaging outcome if no agreement is reached. It helps the party to decide how flexible one can be during the negotiation deal. In the above example, if Ram does not find another job, then he will have to establish Vatna and accept the transfer even without the hike in the salary. The next is walk away point. It is the least favorable point at which one party accepts a deal. Anticipating WAP, that is walk away point, beforehand helps the party to hold a stronger position in the deal. It becomes meaningless if one party does not walk away, if the price or condition or situation is not met. The negotiating parties will try to test each other during the deal. So, it becomes all the more important for the parties to be firm on their proposed price or condition or situation. In the above example, the walk-away point of Ram can be transferred without a substantial hike, in which case Ram will leave the job if he is forced to relocate. For the company, the walk-away point will be necessary transfer of Ram. If he does not accept, he will be asked to leave the company. Another example, buyer and seller negotiate over used car price. Buyer decides he would not pay more than 1 lakh, whereas the seller decides he would not give away the car below 80,000. These prices quoted are called the walk-away points. In such a scenario, deal will not take place. Then let's come to the fourth, that is zone of possible agreement. It is the range in which deal can take place. Each party's walk-away situation or price becomes one end of the ZOPA. In the example of Ran, zone of possible agreement, that is ZOPA, will be for Ram, it will be his readiness for relocation with a hike in salary between 8 to 15,000. For the company, necessary relocation with a hike in salary of Ram between 5 to 10,000. Here, the ZOPA or zone of possible agreement is relocation of Ram with a salary hike between 8,000 the VAP of Ram and 10,000 the VAP of company. In the diagram, we can see the area of ZOPA, that is zone of possible agreement. There are three colors in the diagram: blue, green and mustard. The green color is the area of ZOPA, that is zone of possible agreement. The bargaining zone is the space between the buyer's reservation price BR and the seller's reservation price SR, that is the zone of possible agreement. If BR is greater than SR, then a zone of possible agreement exists. The zone of agreement is from SR to BR, that is the green area in the diagram. So both the parties have the flexibility to move back and forth in the green area. Now let us understand the process of negotiation. Process of negotiation consists of broadly 6 parts. First is preparation. Second is establishment of negotiator identities and setting the tone for interaction. Third is information exchange. Fourth is bargaining. Fifth is closing the deal. And last is formalizing the agreement. Let's now understand in detail the process of negotiation. The first step in the process of negotiation is preparation. One has to prepare well in advance to be successful in the negotiation process. Information plays the key role. The party who has done its homework well will be at a better off position as compared to the other. Parties should clearly lay the objectives along with the priorities in their mind. The objectives should be firm but realistic. One must be aware of how much one is willing to concede or compromise. Example is when one is negotiating for salary with an employer. The incumbent should check what the similar jobs are paying so as to be at better position. Once they have gathered the information, they have to work on BATNA, VATNA, VAP and ZOPA to be well equipped. Third stage of process of negotiation is information exchange. Once the rapport is built, the parties now move to substantive issues that are to be negotiated. The parties should be cautious and should not rush stating their bargaining positions. Broad and open-ended questions should be used to accomplish information. The parties should listen to each other carefully. Intervention should be made to clarify the themes. Judgment should be made once the comprehension is complete. Blocking techniques can be used by the bargainers when asked about the areas the parties would not like to disclose. In this process, tentative negotiations take place without breaking or making the process. The fourth stage of negotiation process is bargaining. It is the heart of the negotiation process. Having clarity of objectives of the negotiation is of utmost importance here. Parties can make initial offer and try to get to the midpoint of their positions. Patience and silence are essentially important. People who talk more tend to disclose more information. people involved should try to gauge the emotional words of the people around. Bargainers debate over the value of the item to be exchanged. This value may be in terms of price and quality of products or salary, promotion, physical facilities, terms of trade, etc. For example, buyers will bargain for lower price and sellers will bargain for higher price for a specific quality standards. The employee will bargain for higher salary and the employer will bargain for lower salary. Consensus building is essential as it induces commitment and support agreement and its implementation. During bargaining stage of negotiation, the following bargaining tactics may be used by the negotiators. First is snow job. Bargainers load the party with so much information that it gets tough for the party to decide what to include and what to exclude. Technical jargons are used to exaggerate the information and make it more presentable. Second tactic is nibbling. Small concessions are asked by the parties just before the closure of the deal. Example can be the party can plead by saying to other, just add this thing. Third, flinching. In this tactic, the party shows negative physical reaction through gestures to a proposal. Examples are gasping of air, expression of shock, etc. This could be done consciously or unconsciously. The fourth bargaining tactics is bogey. Here, the bargainers show that the issue of little importance to them is very important. This could be traded for a major concession later. Next is brinkmanship. One party aggressively pushes the other negotiating party to either agree or walk away. It is hard nut approach. Successful brinkmanship persuades the other party that there is no alternative but to accept the offer. Deadlines. One party gives actual or artificial deadlines to the other so as to push them to make a decision. This method exerts pressure on the other. The fifth stage in the negotiation process is closing the deal. Towards the end of the bargaining stage, the parties try to assess the agreement that will be entered soon. Clarity is reached with respect to what will be given and what will be received by each of the parties. This is the most delicate part of the process. It is observed that less competent bargainers quickly move towards concluding the transaction. Though it's human to appreciate certainty, but one should not rush into the process. During this stage, the parties should be calm and composed rather than being anxious. While closing the deal, long-term benefits should be seen. Following this is most important. For ensuring long-term benefits, the following steps are important. Reaching consensus. Every human being is unique and so are his ways to define consensus. In negotiation process, consensus is defined as a substantive agreement on key issues. Parties should be able to live with the outcome of negotiation. It is also considered as hardest part of the process, as parties involved may have different views, feelings and attitudes about the results. Consensus aims to please as many as possible. Next way is building agreement. Once the consensus is reached, it requires expert skills to convert the generalities into specifics. fair agreement should be documented that accurately interprets the consensus of the parties. Last is setting the terms of agreement. Dissatisfaction and chaos is created if the terms of the agreement aren't clearly laid. For example, builder instructs the contractor to lay the flooring of the building. A week passes by and nothing is being worked. Contractor waited for the written agreement while the builder assumed the work has been started. This leads to loss of man time and material time. So, to make the agreement successful, it is essential to have clarity at each step. The sixth step in the process of negotiation is formalizing the agreement. Once the party agree on an agreement, they shake hands to end the negotiation discussion and make it public by signing a document. Let's now understand the common mistakes and barriers to negotiation. There are several pitfalls that negotiators fall prey to. One must be aware of them so as to consciously address them during and before the deal. The first mistake is irrational escalation of commitment, which is caused by wanting to win at all costs. That is, it also results because of the oversized ego or perceptual biases. The result of this mistake is continuing a selected course of action beyond what is considered rational and in spite of contrary information. Second mistake is mythical fixed pie, the cause for which is lack of creativity in problem solving, which results in a set amount on the table and one party has to win and the other to lose. The third mistake is winner's curse, which is caused by lack of preparation because the people in the habit of winning feel that they do not need to prepare, or it could be caused due to lack of expertise or one party having more information than the other, which may result in making a quick high offer and feeling cheated when the offer is accepted. The next mistake is overconfidence, which is caused by arrogance and distorted perception, because of which proper and full information is not available with the negotiating parties. And this mistake results in overestimating one's ability to be correct, so the final deal that is made is not up to the mark. So, let's understand now what are the barriers to negotiation agreement. The ability to negotiate well with others is not a cakewalk. Sometimes great negotiators also fail to crack a deal. The common barriers that become hurdles in negotiation deal are communication problems, die-hard bargainers, lack of trust, gender and cultural differences, and the spoilers. Let's now understand each one by one. First, communication problems. Communication is considered successful when a party is able to communicate its head and heart and the message is interpreted in the same manner by the other. Mere hearing of words and observing the body language is not communication. So how to handle this barrier of problem of communication? First, know your subject. One must be fully equipped with informational details about the deal, people involved, etc. This would help in clearly conveying the message without overloading or undermining the information. Second, focus on purpose. The objective of the deal should be clear in the minds of the people, unless it is clear that the parties will keep moving on the periphery without focusing on core area. Know your audience. One must understand the audience in order to convey the message effectively. It will be better to know their background, age, and their status. For example, if there are cross-cultural deals, one must be aware of their biases and practices so as to have better connect with them in order to close the deal. Second barrier to communication is die-hard bargainers. These people consider the deals as battle and the negotiating environment as battleground. So they feel they have to win at any cost, at the cost of totally losing of the other party as well. So how to handle this barrier? First, understand the motives of the other party. Don't let them overpower you. Be proactive to understand their unreasonable offers and body language. Second, keep a check on what information has to be disclosed. Third, show them that you can walk away. This helps to keep a check on difficult behaviors of the parties and may make them cooperative. The third barrier to communication is lack of trust. Sometimes our own prejudices and beliefs make us suspect the other side, even though they may not have any ill intention. So, how to handle this barrier? First, be objective. Avoid jumping to conclusions and be open-minded to receive the information well. Don't be too fast in making judgments. Delve deeper into data. Consciously try to keep your concerns and biases at bay. Secondly, how you can handle this is request documents and insist on enforcement mechanisms. Whatever documents are necessary for negotiating the deal, those documents should be requested beforehand so that they can be read and analyzed beforehand and deal can be made accordingly. Third, be clear. The party must clearly know the purpose of the deal. If either of the party is unclear, they may fumble and wander around rather than coming to the central idea. The fourth barrier to negotiation is gender and cultural differences. Globalization has made organizations view the world as a single market. Nowadays, cross-cultural deals are common. Being aware of other parties' culture goes a long way. For example, managers from masculine culture will be more assertive and dominating. US, believing in individualism, still iterate on self-interest, while Japan, relying on collectivism, will emphasize on building relationships. How to handle these barriers? First, research. Efficient managers do their homework well by researching available literature about other parties' culture. Second, understanding assumptions of the other culture. Each party may come with their preconceived notions to the table. It is important to identify and validate them, else they may prove as a barrier to effective communication too. Third, focus on deal and not try to bully the other party. The group need not be manipulative or coercive to the other. Trying to show that one has greater power or wealth may make the other party defensive and the deal may not take place. The fifth barrier to negotiation is The spoilers. When the other party thinks that they will lose the deal, few amongst them try to resist and spoil the atmosphere in order to distract the other party. So, how to handle the spoilers? Identify the potential spoilers so that they can be talked to and pacified in advance if possible. This will help the party to estimate their power to effect an agreement and also chalk out a plan for the spoilers. Second, identify their interest and communicate the benefits. Explaining them the benefits and the matters in detail will help in clear communication. This will also help them in removing additional baggages that they would have carried for long. Collation. Building rapport and collation may lead to amicably closing the deal in one's favor. So now, in the end of this module, let's understand the qualities of successful negotiator. Each negotiation is unique, but there are some basic traits that should be present in the negotiator in order to make the process effective. Also, it is easier to deal with persons who have the following traits in them. First quality of a successful negotiator is he has to be an empathizer. Imagine when people show lack of understanding, interest and concern. It is observed that the other person becomes defensive. An effective negotiator understands the other party and responds to them rather than just speaking his own ideas. The idea is to keep oneself in other person's shoes and then imagine the situation. This helps to smooth out the rough edges and make the process simpler. Another quality is being flexible. An effective negotiator is not rigid and is ready to compromise on some issues for long-term benefit of both the parties. Next quality is being patient. A good negotiator patiently tries to listen to what offer the other party desires to make. He does not switch off when the message seems dull or boring. Closed mind represents to other person that one is not interested to listen and doesn't seem bothered about the topic being discussed. A good negotiator makes sure that the other party is comfortable too. Another quality of a successful negotiator is that a good negotiator is fair in or her approach. None of us wants to be deceived. People become defensive and offended when they realize that they are being cheated by the other person. So while negotiating, party in a stronger position should not totally ignore the needs of the other party, as it will result in ill will and the agreement is not likely to last long. The next characteristic is being perceptive. A good negotiator is very perceptive at picking up cues. He looks for the speaker's main idea and focuses on speaker's voice quality and body language, as they provide vital clues. Also, they help to decipher the emotional content of what the speaker wishes to claim. It is seen that we think faster than we speak. An effective negotiator uses this gap by consistently reviewing what speaker has claimed. Another characteristic of a successful negotiator is being interesting. An effective negotiator is lively and has the ability to stimulate the minds of others too. He is able to capture the attention of all the negotiating persons. In order to retain the interest of the other party, he practices voice modulation as a dull monotone induces mental lethargy amongst the participating parties. Another very important characteristics of a successful negotiator is that he is organized. An effective negotiator is always very organized with respect to his thoughts, the information, and setting priorities. Gathering information about the participants and deal equips oneself to organize material in an efficient manner. For example, if the negotiator is unaware about the statistics and financial position of the organization, it will be difficult to set realistic deals. The messages conveyed should be in logical and understandable form rather than being broken and distorted. So students, let's now summarize what we learned in this module. Over the course of this module, we understood the nitty-gritty of negotiation. Negotiation cannot be learned while following a set procedure and applying them to all the situations. Variety of approaches should be analyzed as per the situations and implemented. One must be alert to verbal as well as non-verbal clues, and they play a major part in negotiation process. Communication is always essential in any interactive process. One must hear and be heard. Also, person should be able to read between the lines and decipher the information accurately. Thank you.